Okay, hello and welcome to another edition of the GHASWA Outreach Show. I'm super excited that you've made it a point to join us. We are so happy that we've had another opportunity to come and discuss another important topic. And please invite your friends, invite your family to come and join this discussion. I am sure that at the end of today, that we'll be able to have learned something. Something would have been able to learn how to make sure that we are in the better place to be able to improve our children's education. Into Mamunya Kwaba and then Maniajipa and Tino, your best a try Hokakra, your best Saba will be right back. Hello and welcome again. Hello and welcome again. Already, we've got people watching us. We've got about 4 people joining us across the various streams today. Oh yes, Madam Nana Efriye Dupoku. Thank you very much, and hello to you too. Yes, and you know, Madam Nana Efriye has showed us the way. When you come, please leave us a comment. Let us know that you have joined the discussion, and please contribute throughout today's discussion, because we're talking about our children's education, and it's something that I believe that everybody has an experience of. Look, what a year. What a year has it been. Coronavirus. Most of us has become teachers at home. So it has been an interesting year. Our children's education has also really suffered because some of us have become professional teachers, and we've been struggling at home. But what a week. What 2 weeks has been since the results came out, when all of a sudden that our children were being graded based on their postcodes where they live, based on their financial background and their status, and then there was a government U-turn. And there are so many hula balloons, there's so many confusion, there's so many things that are happening because some people lost their university places and they can't find them anymore because, unfortunately, they are all filled. Are the universities going to be able to, meet the needs of our children? There are so many things that are happening. So we are really going to get into an interesting discussion today. And yes, what we always say is that we are GHASWA. We are the Ghanaian Social Workers Association. And, we decided to put this show together since the lockdown. What we were doing before the lockdown is that we were going to institutions, we were going to churches, and we were trying to educate people. We do preventative work. We are all about the prevention. We are all about the prevention. So please support the work that GHASWA does. Share our programs. Leave us a comment. Subscribe to our pages so that every time we come on live, you get instant notification. So support the work that we do. If you are an organization, you are a church, you want us to come and treat any topic that you think will benefit your congregation, contact us on any of the numbers on the screen, and please come and contact us, and we'll come and be able to discuss with your congregation. So please make it a point to share. I would be coming your way again very soon in a few seconds.
That's me.
Wonderful. All right, so yes, today we are discussing a very important topic, and I want to acknowledge those who are already joining us again. Ekia, what can I say? Madam Ekia Berfi is our secretary at the Ghanaian Social Workers Association, GHASWA. Madam Ekia, thank you very much for joining. Already, I can see that there are a few others who are also making a point to join. Iris Amoa, thank you very much for joining. We really appreciate you coming on board. And yes, as we said, if you come on board, please leave us a message. Madame Loretta has also just joined. Thank you very much for coming, and leave us a comment when you come on board. Let's introduce our topic today. Today we are looking at our children's education. We're looking at how we are going to improve the outcomes of our children's education. Ekwan be na ebe fa so a ye mma no ye betimi abo omo na omadesua no musua no omadu amakomanim na omatu mpon ewo efense omadesua no. Ewo mu se niema bebre na esisi ye mma no kwan. Ye bibifo ye tuntumfo yi, e teacherfo no ebi di ye mma nani. Niema bebre ni disisi akwan mu a emwa ye mma no. Ene ye betwetwe sa enkomo no. Today we are going to be looking at the discriminations and the biases within the educational system and how we overcome those difficulties and support our children. So as usual, GHASWA is quite happy and privileged, and fortunate to have two guests with us. Today we have Madame, actually it's the Joneses. Madame Jones and Madame Tina Latifa Jones, they are our guests today. But you know what, as we always do, we make sure that we welcome, and they've both been on our shows before, but Madame Tina has become a regular. So let's take our time now and try and get to know Madame Kate a little bit more. If you are ready for us, Madame Kate. Hello, Madame.
Well, hello, good evening, and good evening to all people who are watching, your viewers and your listeners.
All right, and we know that you are, a learning and development practitioner. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a trained teacher. I'm a qualified ICT teacher, secondary for that matter. I'm also a learning and development practitioner. I currently lead on apprenticeships in business studies as a lead practitioner for business studies, working with University Hospitals of Leicester, NHS Trust. So yes, I may not be in a secondary school classroom, but what I do is still be in a classroom. But my current role is working with people who are already in employment and want to improve themselves. Okay. So, for instance, I deliver business studies level 2, which is equivalent to GCSEs, and level 3, which is equivalent to A levels. Okay. So even though they may not be in formal education, they are still gaining qualification, and it is the same. Yeah. So that's what I do currently.
Wow, you do a lot. I didn't know that you were doing all these things. We get to discover on this show that you are that versatile and doing so much. So thank you very much for joining our show tonight. Let me take opportunity to welcome a few other people who have joined us since. Again, yes, we have hello from Loretta. Thank you very much, and Esther also is watching us, and Esther is saying hello to us. Hello to you too, Esther. And I've seen that Madame Yabwachua, who is our event and organizing lead, is also watching. Papa Roland Ajiman is also watching us. Thank you very much for tuning in. Madame Ekia Efua Aqua Yeboah is also watching us. Thank you very much. And Claire, who's a regular, watcher right now, and somebody who's been following us and supporting us, has been on our shows. Claire is also watching us, and Claire is a head of service, very important post in Birmingham. So, and I know that she's got a lot of influence. So thank you very much for watching us. And yes, Ekia is saying hello, and we want to say hello back to you, Ekia, too. So thank you very much. And I can see that Claire is saying good evening, and Claire is disguised herself on Facebook, some strange names there. We found you out. All right, so let's carry on with our conversation today. And thank you very much. And also Teddy Smith has just joined us. So thank you very much for joining to watch us. And Madame Iris is saying that she's looking forward to hearing more about your role, Kate.
All right. It's interesting.
We'll get into it, in a minute. Can we also turn our attention to Madame Latifa Jones? Hello, ma'am.
Hello, good evening, everyone watching this evening. Thank you so much for your time. As Kweku said, I'm Tina Latifa Jones. I'm an independent social worker. However, for the purpose of this evening's topic, I would like to introduce myself as I'm a parent for 3 lovely children, or one in university, one in just about to start secondary school, and one in primary. So I've got kids in all the different categories.
Wow.
Also a foster carer, and my foster children are in secondary schools. One is in a private school and one in a college. And I'm also a service provider for children in care, especially unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. So I have a lot to say from that perspective as a parent, as a foster carer, and how all these issues have actually impacted on the children that I support. So yeah, all these U-turns and not turns and algorithms and everything, very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. First-hand experience. And look at that. How do you manage to wear all these hats? How do you manage to do all this? I mean, you guys are super women. I mean, I cannot imagine how you are able to combine all this, because you've got very challenging roles, and you are very, very, very successful in doing that, and want to celebrate you on our show. So yes, we're going to get straight into our discussion tonight. And again, let me remind you, please, if you're watching us, as it is on our banner that is scrolling there, is that please like it, please subscribe to our pages, especially if you are watching us from YouTube. Please like it if you are watching from Facebook, and leave us a brief comment. Essays will cover the whole screen, so keep it brief and sweet and join the conversation. So thank you very much for that. And already we have more comments there. I think the comment didn't appear, but yes, Nalai Champon, Governor, thank you for tuning in. Oh yes, the Joneses. Yeah. I'm quite used to women, the Joneses, yes. Welcome to the Joneses. Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Look, let's get straight into our conversations. So as we've seen, it has been really, really, really a difficult and challenging a year, let alone, our children. Some of our children are going to secondary school. They've had no transition work. Some of them didn't write any exams. And for generations, maybe they might be described as the generation that did not write exams, and their grades were given to them. Is that a fair comment or not? There's been a lot of challenges, but today we are really, really going to be focusing on how that system affects our children, especially within the we call it the Black Asian, minority refugees. And children that are displaced groups. So now it is the BAMER, rather than the BAME. Now it's the BAMER. So it's the Black Asian Minority Ethnic Refugee Group. We're extending every day, and a lot of things affect us. So let's get straight into our conversation. We want to start our discussion by looking at the discriminations and the biases within the educational system. From your experience, what are some of them? And I want to start with Madam Latifa Jones.
Well, thank you very much, Kweku. As I have said, the discrimination and biases within the educational system, I just pray and hope that one day we can eradicate all of that. We are very much aware that some of these things are very unconscious, hence the terminology unconscious biases. However, that is not an excuse. So this is where, as much as we, the BAMER community, are expected to understand and to, should I use the word assimilation, and learn about the environment and the country that we live in, we also expect the system to take our cultural issues and everything into perspective. When we had the continuous assessments in educational institutions, I loved it. I was a product of that. I did my O-levels in Ghana. I was struggling with the chew and pour, pass and forget attitude. I didn't do so well in that. Within 10 days of coming into the UK, I was in a class. I was in a science class. When I was in Ghana, I was told I wasn't good enough to be in a science class. And to the glory of God, I was one of two of the best science students. College, Waltham Forest College, E17. I love them to bits. But I had the opportunity to learn and to be given the time over a continuous period.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, the government decided to change the system. I'm sure there are teachers watching, and they may be able to help me to understand why the system changed. Because 2020, with coronavirus, the government decided to come up with a system to award grades to children that they have never met, children that they have never really understand how their learning styles are. So to some degree, I can understand why the government decided to bring this system up to award these grades, because some of the courses, I guess, is only the examination that will determine how well the child can do. On the other hand, if we had this continuous assessment, I think would have been much better, and hopefully some iota of respect would have been given to our teachers to do the job. I don't understand why teachers are with these students and people day in and day out, and then when we have such a situation, the government decided to come up with a system to award grades. Does it mean our teachers are not good enough to do what they're doing? So if there are teachers listening, I would really like to know how they're feeling. Do you feel like you've been undermined, disrespected by the system? And does the term kind of vindicate you? The discrimination and biases, of course, with the Black, Asian, minority, ethnic group, there are lots of issues that affect the way we learn. If I can put myself in some of my children's situation, especially with the unaccompanied asylum-seeking children that I support.
Yes.
A lot of them don't have families in this country.
Yes.
Due to virtual school and, some of the colleges and schools, they have access to tablets and computers. Half of them are still trying to learn English. And suddenly, COVID, lockdown, they all have to go online. And some of them was complaining the teachers were not present, or they couldn't figure out one or two things, blah, blah, blah. So guess what? Some of them have actually been expelled from the school because they couldn't meet the grades. What grades? They couldn't even get onto online to work properly. So now we're in the middle of appealing.
Did you say they were expelled?
Pardon?
Did you say they were expelled?
They have been removed from their courses because they did not meet the criteria.
Christ.
So this is some of the issues we are dealing with. We know children that come into care for reasons, and I'm not making any excuses at all. Towards, as the program progresses, you will see the other side of my argument. But children that are in care, a lot of them have gone through trauma. And so a lot of them need some sort of support. During the lockdown, I had 6 children in my care, from primary to university, all trying to learn in different ways. They are all in different schools as well. 6 children in 5 different educational establishments.
Wow.
So you can imagine how I was tearing my hair up every day. And some of especially my foster children, it took them a long time to understand that what they are supposed to learn, they've not learned it yet. So in their head, we've not been taught this. Why are you asking me to do this? Why am I being assessed on this? I can't do it. So it took them a while to even process and analyze, the situation, the climate that we were in. And like you rightly said, some of them were supposed to write exams. Some of them have studied so hard, and unfortunately, they couldn't write exams.
Right.
And then results came, and the results is based on their economic background, their geographical location. Goodness me, talk about biases and discrimination.
Yes.
We all know a lot of ethnic minorities live in deprived neighborhoods. And some of these deprived neighborhoods have got some of the relatively poor schools. We talk about Ofsted ratings. Some of them have got required improvement. If you are lucky, 1 or 2 good schools within that area. So when this system comes in, of course, they're going to mark those children down because they are from deprived neighborhood. But majority of them are from, ethnic minority backgrounds. So the system, one would argue that we have what we call institutional or systemic racism or the systemic discrimination because of the way it has been set up.
Yes.
we need to raise awareness of this, and we need to do something about it. And the more we all talk about it, the more it will work for us. So where somebody lives, the color of your skin, although that doesn't appear on the system, the algorithms and the calculations on and all of that brings it up. So we really need to talk about it and raise the awareness so that we can change this. And I'm really glad that the government did a U-turn. Thank you.
Wonderful. You've said a lot there, and there's a lot to unpick also from the things that you've said. And I would want to yes, go into our listeners and the comments that are coming through. Kweku did say that he's not a teacher, but he can actually draw similarities and agree to the comments that you made. And our super fan, Madame Trudy, has joined us finally. She says Akwaba and also agreed with the comments that you were saying. Claire is making a comment that especially Black boys, our adultification. How do white women and white males see Black boys in the education system? A self-fulfilling prophecies that they would never do well within, and they are set up to fail. Some of these discriminations are there, that our children are really, really discriminated against. So thank you very much for your comments and bring them through. Somebody saying that, the government was in a very difficult situation in terms of COVID-19 and how it happened. And you are doomed if you do, you are doomed if you don't. So Trudy is saying that the government didn't really have a choice. Is that really the case? Let's go into the conversations. And good evening to you too, Jemima Inshraba, for passing through. Thank you very much for all the people who've joined in to our conversations today. We really, really appreciate you. And yes, our vice president, Madame Laura, is also watching us, and she say hello to our guests too. Okay, now let's turn our attention to you, Madame. Another Jones, Madame Kate Jones. From your perspective, what are the discrimination and biases that you've noticed as a teacher, a qualified teacher, as a, I would say a learning development practitioner? What have you seen, and if you can go up a little bit, because I think that the thing is covering your face a little bit. Yes, thank you very much. You are muted, so let's unmute you. Yes, okay, go
on. Okay. Discrimination starts from subject selection. Discrimination also starts from perceived career pathways for Black, Asians, and ethnic minority right from school. Discrimination is also somehow institutionalized in certain settings. And unconscious bias also exists in our education system. Okay, we've talked about this before. Our young men and women in secondary schools, when they come in, most of the courses that they choose for them, or most of the pathways they encourage them to go into, is what they perceived they are good at. So things like entertainment, things like sports, things like drama and dancing. I'm not saying these subjects are not important. They are equally important. They are important, and they may be the career pathway of some of our children. But the perception that we excel and we are good at those ones, it's what is actually limiting our ability to explore other areas in careers. And therefore, sometimes parents are also convinced and believed that, okay, if the school is actually encouraging my daughter or my son to take up sports or to take up drama, then I would have to push them in that direction, or I accept that. Okay, so in a way, that area of prejudice about the professions that Black people, Black and ethnic minority people, are actually convinced or talked into believing they are good at may not always result in us being in positions of influence where we can actually influence some of these policies to our advantage. So that is what we need to look at. Consciously or unconsciously, these schools may be doing that. Now, you have to remember that in England, we have the league table, and every school wants to do good on the league table. So the efforts that they have to put in so that every child gets the needed attention and the grades they deserve in the courses they have chosen is very demanding and sometimes can be costly. So in order not to do that, they push the perceived academics into certain areas. And to make it easy for themselves, they pushed our boys and girls into the areas they know that it's easy for them to fit in. Okay. I'll say this because I started as a teaching assistant in 2006. Right. I worked in primary schools. I worked in nurseries. I worked in community. I was teaching in a community, Telford College, where I did adult community education. I've worked in secondary schools, and I'm now working in employment. So if I say that, I think I know where I'm coming from.
Of course.
What it is they do not want to push us into areas that they perceive not excel. That is their own perception.
Can you please repeat that?
Right? They do not push us into areas that they do not perceive us to excel. Okay? Now, if you take an Indian child, every school teacher would somehow agree with me. Indians are the best doctors. Okay? So this Indian boy will be a doctor. So let's give them science. Okay? And let's help them there because their parents will help them. In addition to that, they see their parents practicing it, and therefore they do have some influence on them. In Pakistanis will be accounting and business, restaurant owners. Okay? Black people will be sports people and entertainers. Okay? So if you have looked at the trend, that is how it's formulated. Even though years and years on, statistics has proved that Black boys, especially who come from Africa, do well and excel well in other subjects other than sports and drama. And they go on to go to university and have professions that is at par with their white counterparts.
Okay.
But the efforts and the manpower and the cost involved is too much for them. So they take the easiest option for our Black and ethnic minority boys.
Hang on there. Hold on. So, guys, did you hear what Madam Kate Jones is saying? She's saying that the teachers are pushing our children towards a different direction in order for it to be easier for them to teach them. Not because they think that, because they are more concerned about their league boards or the league table, and they are thinking that it will be easier for our children to pass those ones. So they are pushing our children towards the direction of them passing easy subjects, rather than actually encouraging them for them to pursue subjects that will help them in the future and in their careers. Am I understanding you? Is that what is that yes, the point you make?
I mean, observe the trend. Observe the trend. Observe the trend.
And see, just say a teacher for no, your money and your mako school mo Omodia and yes, Edia, ya one colanama, a offensive baby betimi drew no metimi drew. Omodia, a more resource no more into the area now obey or say, okay, Akolawe, or free or ye bibini, Sesakra, Papa Crano, or ye cleaner. Ni papa, ni mami, or ye carer, into no. I want to be the entire man in your science. Yanko passports be man and I on no bitcha. Na yensu resource never boy. Hey!
Observe the trend. That's what happens.
Carry on, madam. Carry on.
With regards to exams and assessments, we have different routes. Okay. So, for instance, my last secondary school, we did have what we call the BTECs, and then we have the GCSEs. Okay. Now, schools before then, before baccalaureate or before the EBACs, as they call them, we had what we call 5 A star to C. Now, those were yardsticks or measures for assessing performance and for grading them on the league table. So the 5 were English, maths, science, and I think 2 other subjects. I think there was ICT and a bit of a language or history, one of the arts. So they are great. So it depends well at 50% of it, of your students achieving 5 A star to C, your placing on the league table will be different. If you got 80%, your placing on the league table will be different. So in that area, schools were a bit flexible in actually selecting subjects, that suits learners. And most of them will put them on what we call, they look at the abilities. We always work with abilities. So in some schools, you have sets. So we have the higher sets, the middle mixed sets, and then the bottom sets. So we do that. And in some schools, they have them all mixed up. So they have Miss Ability A's, Miss Ability B's, Miss Ability C. Now, those ones, when they get to year 9, or right from year 9, they decide which ones will take the GCSE routes and then which ones will take the BTEC routes. Okay. Now, the BTEC routes is more coursework based. Okay. They do more coursework. And the GCSE group is more exams. Okay. It's more of exams. So the BTEC, you would have continuous assessment. And with the BTEC, depending on what board you are with, so like BTEC Pearson's or OCRs or Cambridge Nationals, depending on what board you're with, at the end of year 10, someone from outside the school, so we call it external verifiers, they will come in and look at a sample of your coursework. They will you provide a sample, but when they come in, they would actually pull anybody from that cohort and say, I want to look at this person's mark. It's a form of standardization. It's a form of benchmarking. Okay. So when the external examiner, external verifier has come in, if he agrees with the grades that you have given the students, it is then assumed that all within the cohorts will get their predicted grade, because the external verifier is happy with the sample of work he or she has received. That's the BTEC. So in this cohort season, usually they come in because end of year is July. Yeah. So usually they come in from May. Anywhere when they start the exams, the GCSE starts exams in May. So anywhere within that, the external verifiers will come in and do the verification.
Right.
Now, I'm not too sure whether they came in before they shut the schools down. Okay. And even if they didn't, I'm sure that they would have sent samples for them to verify externally. So it is predicted that whatever grades teachers predict is likely to be the grades students will end up with. Not forgetting, some people do well with exams, okay, especially the boys. They will not do their coursework. When they know that they got a week to exams, they put everything in. Some people do that and they pass exams. And sometimes their coursework is left unfinished, but they do pass exams. But eventually they will finish those coursework. So the predicted grades that the teachers gave, in my opinion, should have been standardized by OPIL or whatever, which is the Office of Qualification, whatever. They should have been standardized. But they did not believe those grades. And I'm not saying, I'm not predicting doom. There are some schools who will inflate grades. That's, I mean.
So they actually inflate some of the grades.
Some schools will do. Because, I mean, what Michael Gove brought in was that your promotion and your you going up the ladder, depending on how many of your students pass within your cohorts. So we have to justify how our pays go up. Okay, before then, before Michael Gove, it was just automatic increments. Okay, everybody knows that in this country, teachers start from what we call the NQT level. Okay, so when you're a newly qualified teacher, your pay is different. When you move up to stage 1, a year after your NQT, your pay is different. Then it goes on till you hit your threshold, which is 6 years. And if you have responsibilities, you have the allowance that comes with it. Now, Michael Gove said you have to justify why he has to increase your salary. Now, that will depend on the number of people in your cohorts that pass. Okay, so you have to justify that. So because of that, there is a lot of pressure on teachers.
Okay.
There is a lot of pressure on teachers. So I'm not saying that the teachers have been doing that, but there is that leeway there. There is that error there that teachers can do that. Or some schools may be forced to do that.
Wow, you've said a lot in there, and I think that if we allow you, you'll be talking about that subject forever. But there are other.
It's exactly what is going on.
Yeah.
This is what goes on in schools. So I'm a teacher. I've taught in so many schools in Warsaw. I've taught in so many schools in Shropshire, and I see it going on. It goes on. So we need to understand these things. Yeah. We need to know the roots of it. We need to understand them so that if we are going to help our children, we'll be able to help them. Okay, so that is what is happening. So I don't know whether the external verifiers came in or not. But even so, it has always been assumed that schools in higher postcodes or schools in well-to-do postcodes always do better than schools in deprived postcodes. It's always assumed. That may not always be the case, because that is not always the case. So as you have seen, the algorithm that the government developed predicted that those people in the postcodes, higher postcodes, got what they said, what their teachers said they would have. Whereas those in the deprived areas, they had to downgrade them. They had to down because they didn't believe what the teachers were saying that they would have. So you see what I'm talking about? This is how it works, and that's how you saw what you saw. You understand? So these are some of the institutional discrimination, not just against blacks, but against their schools and their communities as well. So if it's being done in the communities, how much more black and ethnic minority children? And we are always somehow at the bottom of the ladder. So if it's in that community, how much more is it going to impact on our community? And that's where we have to look at it from.
All right. Okay. Can I turn my attention slightly to the comments that are coming in?
Yeah, sure.
Anstance, please keep it short and sweet. When you write, thesis, it covers the whole page. But Anstance is making some very, very important points there. And I would like to put your messages on screen, but please imagine, look at something like this. It's covered Madame Latifa Jones' face. Please keep your comments. They are very good comments, but keep them in smaller portions so that we can consume the information properly. So thank you very much. Madame Iris is saying sad that children's ability are determined by their postcode. It's really, really sad. And what is the irony is that. And Madam Anstance agrees with me. The irony is that when those children living in poorer areas, the teachers are giving them grades, then the government finds it, comfortable to downgrade them because they know that these people who are from these children are predominantly black. So let me turn my attention to Madam and Latifa Jones. In terms of your a bit more in terms of the unconscious biases and the stereotypes of our children, just like the example that's been given, where the children who are living in poorer areas are assumed that they will not be able to do well. As Madam Jones said, the teachers are determining our children's lives. They are choosing subjects that they think that it will be easier for them to pass in order for their league table to go up so that they get more pay. Unspeakable. You can't even think far.
Kweku, I can't even get my head around it. And thank you so much, Ms. Jones, for clarifying this. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And it's almost like the government is setting parameters so that those in the deprived areas will always remain there. Although they think on one side, oh, we are all trying to help everyone to have equal opportunity. There is nothing like equal opportunity when you hear some of these things. It is ridiculous. Just because a parent cannot afford to live in a middle or upper class neighborhood, so that means that their children and their generations will remain in those, for want of a better word, so housing estates and things like that. That is ridiculous. There are so many children in these neighborhoods that are doing so well against all odds, which is why I feel like teachers should be given more credit. However, teachers also need to be educated when it comes to the cultural sensitivity and cultural appropriation. Because we can't allow teachers to just go with the usual stereotypes. Oh, black boy with a bit of swag, that could be very disrespectful. All you're good for is get into the sports. And then they encourage the parents. That is, if you are lucky to have those parents to attend parents' evening, you're lucky to tell them, oh, your child is really good at sports, so let him go to sports academy. Oh, look at all these footballers who are getting so much money. Push your child in there. And then, of course, we want quick money. We want to go back home and build big mansions. We want to retire. We've all been here 20, 30 years. We still think we go back to Africa. So we agree with these teachers and put their children where it's easy for the teachers, like Ms. Jones is saying. Parents, we need to be wise. We need to wise up. And we need to work in partnership with these teachers. Unconscious biases. I mean, as a service provider for children in care, especially with our unaccompanied asylum-seeking children, I have to attend a number of these PEP meetings and parents' evenings.
Well, I mean, explain what a PEP meeting is, that for people to understand what it is.
PEP meetings are meetings where the easy way I like to explain it is where children in care are actually given a certain time to speak to their social workers, get to speak to the teachers and also the safeguarding lead at the school, so that they can help us to understand their academic achievement and attainment and what can be done to help them more. So when you have unaccompanied asylum seekers living in semi-independent provisions, which is more or less like a shared house, their English is limited. They don't have any family. The family they have are the support workers and the providers like us who are there for them. So these children are at the bottom of the bottom, so they really struggle. And unfortunately, a lot of the teachers don't really take extra time to get to know these children. So it makes it very difficult for these children to really work hard to even attain the classes that they start with. I mean, I have two Eritrean young boys who are so smart. The first year they came in, one of them passed the GCSE English. And do you know how difficult it was to even get him onto that GCSE? Because automatically he's an unaccompanied asylum seeker from a certain part of the world, straight into ESOL. But that boy had so much confidence, So he said, "Give me a chance. I'm going to try." And last year he passed his GCSE English. He's now doing mechanical engineering because he's so confident. He's still at college doing well. But I also have some young boys from Sudan who are entering their 3rd year in ESOL. Why? You know, because
they get money from there.
Yeah,
because the schools get money.
And some of them are struggling
get money
with
by them being in there.
trauma. The trauma that they have had to face. Some of them have worked months. One of the boys I work with, it took him 8 months to get to the UK. And some of them are judged before they even get to know them. You know, so the unconscious biases, Kweku, we can go on and on and on. My children, I'm in a multi-faith household. My husband is a Muslim. I have 2 children who wear hijabs. Both of them are top in their class. But of course, the hijabi girls, who are they? They are oppressed at home. They don't know anything, you know? But because of the confidence that I have built in my children, they thought that my middle child is a bit of a shy one. So although she's achieving everything, one particular area, she doesn't answer questions. She doesn't put her hand up. You know? But at the same time, she's not being treated as an individual because the teachers are trying to put everybody in the same box. So that makes it very difficult for some of these children to really express themselves and get to understand them. And of course, the media doesn't help. The media doesn't help at all. Just a few days ago, one of my daughters, who is now going into secondary year 7, they've decided to have a WhatsApp group. And in that WhatsApp group, one Caucasian girl said, I don't really remember your name properly, so I'm just going to call you the hijabi girl. You know? And some of the teachers also don't understand, and they are choosing not to understand, and they are just going by what they hear in the media. So that makes it very difficult. When you try to talk about it, that is the angry Black woman. You know, so it's almost, you're doomed if you don't, you're doomed if you do. So this is what I'm saying. We need to start right from the beginning again. I mean, some of these, I'm so happy that we have a number of Black teachers now. And I hope that they will be able to contribute and influence, you know, the way the system works. But I'm also very much aware that some of the Black children give the Black teachers a really tough time. They do. So, for example, my foster son, I could bet you $1, the school will call me that he's been put into exclusion or something. Why? Because it was just what do you call this, supply teacher. It was a supply teacher. Is this African teacher? I don't understand the way he speaks. Hello, you're a Black boy yourself. You need to give them that respect, because at the end of the day, they get paid whether you learn or not. So the unconscious biases and the stereotypical ways of how ethnic minority children are being treated is very deep rooted. And I know with time, we can, you know, change things as long as we have these platforms like this to talk more about it, but also to encourage our parents to be involved. I mean, one of the things that, you know, increases unconscious bias as well is, I'm not quite sure about you guys, your area, but a lot of schools have now formed this Friends of the School, which is like, it's not Parents Teachers Association, but it's almost like the parents of the school have formed some sort of a charitable group where they raise funds through the summer fete, Black History, not even Black History Month, World Food Day. So some parents will then volunteer to help raise funds for the school. Now we know a lot of Black parents may not have that time, you know, to be helping out. So to some degree, some children are also discriminated because their parents are not well known at the school. You know, when my 2 youngest ones were in a preparatory school, the school published all the parents' contact details. And then at the end of the year, parents would meet up for dinner and stuff like that. I always didn't feel belonging to that because of the culture within certain parent groups. So again, it's something I'm pleading with our parents. I learned the hard way, but if there is any way at all that we can support and be part of the school, I'm not asking people to quit their jobs and suddenly become volunteers for their children's schools. You can be a school governor. You know, school governors don't meet every week.
No.
Attend parents' evenings, send emails in, try and have a way to communicate with the school so that the school are aware of your presence. Because some of these children are discriminated against because they feel like, oh, their parents will not complain. No, their parents don't even come to the school. So we can get away with some way we treat them. So unfortunately, it's coming back to the parents to be able to make these changes in the school system.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And yes, and I agree with all the comments that are coming through from our our listeners and our viewers. And Martin Luther King Akwaba. Martin, as you know, is our financial secretary at GHASWA, and he's a regular guest on our show. He is a very knowledgeable gentleman, and he's raising a very important point, which is taking us into the next topic of how we get involved as parents in our schools and our children's education. And just to give a typical example, is that I decided that I was going to become a governor at my son's school after I felt that I was being discriminated against. When I was a little bit late, like 5 minutes in collecting my child, and I received a fine of £40. I said, hey, these people, and they said, you should go and resolve this with the school governors. So I decided I'm going to be part of that board. And guess what? I'll tell you, the discrimination that was going on, I am proud to say that they tried to exclude, a Black African boy, and I wouldn't allow it. Eventually, we were able to, as governors, to, not to affirm the appointment of that head teacher who was interim. He was interim. We decided to go and look for somebody else, and the person that we decided as governors to go for has let the school become good. The school was on the journey to improvement, but that school is rather good. So Martin, I agree with your point that we need to get involved. Mr. Isaac there is also a governor. I know him very well. He's also a governor at his child's school. So we should get involved in those discussions. So let me bring Madam Tina into the conversation. In what other ways can we get involved, apart from what Madam Tina is saying, that, if we will be part of the friends of the school to make sure that our influence is felt and to make sure that we are taking part? What other ways can we become, part of, the school, and how do we then help our children's education?
Do you mean me or Tina?
No, I'm talking about, oh, yes, you're all Johnsons, so I get confused. Madam Kate.
Okay. Yes, just like before we go on there, let me just say that some teachers are doing a fantastic job, and some teachers are doing a great job.
Right.
The Black and ethnic minority teachers are also discriminated against. So whilst they are powerless, it is very difficult to actually support the Black and ethnic minority children. So you also need to bear those Black and ethnic minority teachers in mind. We face a lot, and I'm not the only one. You ask any Black teacher in any school, and they will tell you we face a lot of discrimination as well. So although we try to do our best, we are limited in certain ways. The few who are able to tick the box of BME are not really BME in fullness. Okay, just give me 2 minutes to explain this BME. Okay. I've always said that BME is an intellectual fraud. It is, okay, because I'll say this, because a white South African is classified as a BME, okay. A Greek Cypriot is classified as a BME, okay. Anybody who is in a minority group, like the Chinese, are classified as BME. Okay, so once that position is occupied by anyone from this group, They have satisfied the BME box.
Ava.
Okay, what empathy? I'm not saying they don't have. What empathy or what sympathy would, let's say, a Black South African have towards a Black proper African? A white South African have towards a Black African? What empathy? What knowledge does a Greek Cypriot or a Romani Gypsy or someone from Romanian ethnic group have with, let's say, somebody from Africa, from the Caribbean, or from other side of Asia? So you see, the whole concept is actually flawed. Once they get somebody from this group to represent you, I'll take your minds back to when the health minister was asked about how many people are in, how many Black people are in Boris Johnson's cabinet. What did he say? He says what is the diversion of thought. So you understand? It's a diversion of thought. So right from the start, everything is stuck against that. Now, that doesn't mean that some people have not broken through. They have, but they have gone through heavy hoops and loops to break through. So we have to consider that as well in its holistic when we are looking at how our children are discriminated against. We have to look at it from the top. How are we ourselves discriminated against? And when that is off, that truncates down to our children as well. Now, you were fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to become a governor. If I tell you the number of parents who have come to me to say they turned my application down or I wasn't allowed in, you'll be surprised. Okay, people want to get involved, but they've made it so hard and so difficult for people to get involved. So we, yes, we have to. And somebody actually wrote that Black parents need to invest in their children's education. I'm sure everyone here who is a parent want the best for their children, if they can. Now, they themselves are struggling. So how do they invest a little bit more in the tuition, in the private tuition of their children? It's going to be difficult. So we have to look at it in a holistic way. How can we get involved? We can get involved in so many ways. From the day you walk your child to the gate of the school, you can request for a parent information pack from the school. Okay, some will direct you to a website, because in most of the good schools they have websites, parent information. They have information for parents. Okay, so from that first day you have to request for a parent information pack. You need to know who your parent's class teacher is. You need to have a calendar of all evening, I've forgotten what it, parents' evenings. You need to have a date for parents' evenings. You also need to know your child's predicted grades. Okay, you need to know what your child is predicted. You need to be involved in your child's career pathway and the subjects that your child is being given. Okay, so when you are involved in all these things, there is the probability that you can help shape that child to become what they want to be and also make you a proud parent. So we can get involved in so many ways. There are bullying policies of every school. Okay, there is also the discrimination policy in every school. There is the behavior policy in every school. Okay, these are the three things that parents need to know. Okay, you need to know the bullying policy, you need to know the behavior policy of the school, and you need to know the discrimination policy of the school. You also need to know.
Go over again. The policy.
Bullying policy, because every school will have one. Behavior management policy, every school will have one. Discrimination policy against ethnic minorities or BME policy, you would have one. You would need to know that. Okay. The other thing as well is that you need to know how your child is doing. So your child's predicted grades. Every child, even before they come into year 7, we already have their predicted grades from primary school. Okay. When they come into primary school, that's how we are able to stream them into, let's say, top ability level, mix or bottom. That's how we're able to stream them. So you would have all these grades. Now, you need to also request for interpretation for the interpretation of those grades and those levels. Okay, you can request.
Explain that.
Okay,
explain that interpretation.
So we do, yes, because most of our levels and gradings have changed over the years.
Yes.
And since 2006, almost every 2 years or almost every 5 years, the education policy in this country changes. Before you get hold of the previous one, they have changed it to another one. That's what teaching in this country is all about. It's never stable, or it never goes on for long. So the grades keep changing. Now it's no longer A, B, C. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 9 is A star, and then 8, and so on and so on. So if you are a parent and they give you those grades, you do not know. So you have to ask, what does the 9 mean? And what is the assessment criteria for 9? You understand that?
Yes.
Once you know the assessment criteria for 9, you can then help your child and shape your child to meet those criteria so that that child can get a 9. Okay? Without you knowing the assessment criteria for 9, it will be very difficult for you to support your child. So if your child is working at a level 4, you will not know.
Yes.
You understand? But once you know the assessment criteria for a level 4, you'll be able to support your child to move up. So you need to know the predicted grade of your child. You need to know what that child needs to do to meet that predicted grade from the class teacher, from the form teacher, from the head of year. Okay, so in many schools, because it's a pastoral system, head of years are responsible for the children in their cohorts.
Right.
Okay, so if there is any behavior problem, if there is any learning issue, if there is any grading issue, your first point of contact is the class teacher. If the child is in secondary school, the child will have a form tutor. Okay, so that is your first point of contact, form tutor. If the child is in primary school, you have your class teacher. Now, if you can't get hold of the form tutor, you need to go to the head of year for that child, because in some, or head of house. In some schools, they put them into houses. In some schools, they group them in years. So those, you need to know them. And you need to be in constant communication with them. You know, at any point in time, you can send an email to the form tutor and say, okay, can I, nowadays with the GDPR as well, there are certain information that the teacher can give to the parent.
Right.
And there are certain information the teacher is not allowed if the child says so.
Right.
Okay.
So the child can actually say, even though the child can actually say, I don't want you to share my grades with my parents, and the teacher would have to agree.
Yes, that's the new GDPR. Yes. Yes, the child has the right to say that, and the teacher, if you go above it, it's a misconduct. So you need to work with them. You know, you need to work with your child. You need to work with the form teachers. You need to work with the head of years to get involved. Even the reports that we used to send reports every term. Now you can only send one report. If the child says, I don't want that report to go to my parents, you can't overrule that.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is another thing.
Thank you so much. You've said a lot in there. And then I'm conscious of our time, and I'm conscious of the fact that we have a lot of things to also get through. But you've made some very salient points. Yes, some more for. And yes, sorry, near the Manico school are no maba. Yes, sorry, na a Colana school near the Atarian show, near Momabia near the no Moko school, no Masabi fee, and yes, I need cry. You must understand what is going on. You must know whether your child is achieving age-related expectations. Madam, a friend saying, case SC, your mom grade, you must understand the grade. Say 9 now, or 1 year, 9 saying. Now, quite ben soon after I'm better for 9. And you know, there you cry, what's wrong? We need to understand, or see, just see a TRC. And now, the friend saying, you know, Mundin Como, you must almost say, a man, a quite ben soon, I'm fast on Musian. Now, the hard drink I can say. One Timika says, my results with them fan German mammy and I'm papa. And yes, it be now a teacher says that be into me, yes, sir. Made them before said, and was a sempa. Say, Meme, I will for one bano, now me bano, and travel school, now met me up one was a man fan papa now, said that so fan German. I mean, what happens to my right? We'll talk about it a little bit as we go on. But Madam Tina, I want to bring you to the conclusion. in terms of what are the necessary sacrifices? What are the necessary sacrifices that we have to make, and what are some of the steps that we have to take to improve the, I'll say the outcomes and attainments of our children?
Kweku, thank you once again. Just before I move on to this topic, I think your last statement, I would like to just highlight that in regards to the whole GDPR and information sharing between school and parents and children. Unfortunately, it comes back to our relationship with our children. If the child feels like I'm supposed to be getting, 80% and I got 65 and my parents are going to be mad at me, bravo, they've got GDPR to hold on. They're not going to tell mom or dad. Meanwhile, they are struggling because they are afraid of their parents' attitude or reaction towards that. So the government can bring in all policies, all legislations as they like. If parents don't have the positive relationship with their children, well, guess what? When the going gets tough, it comes back to the parents. So we need to try and establish that open, honest, transparent, positive relationship with our children to the point that when they actually fail, they can still come and tell their parents that, Mom, Dad, it was so bad. I don't know what was happening there. I need help.
Good point.
And them coming up with flimsy excuses to their teachers, and now the teachers will be thinking it's the parents that are problematic. So unfortunately, it has to come back to us. The relationship with our children, I cannot stress that enough. Sometimes they may be a bit scared to start with, but when they realize that, I have to tell mom or dad because if I don't do that, I'm going to struggle. For example, mathematics, I wasn't very good at maths, and my daughter took after me, unfortunately. Just mention mathematics and she'll start crying, literally. So I said to my husband, how long are we going to carry on with this? Because she is in the higher set in English, literature, and all of these things, but she's in the lower set when it comes to maths. And she has almost closed her mind that she's going to fail maths. And I thought, hold on, you want to be a social worker. You can't go to university without maths. 5 months to her writing her GCSE, I sat her down. I said, you know what? As a parent, if I just sit down and say, yeah, I wasn't good at maths, so I'm not surprised you are not good at it, then I am setting you up to fail. We need to find a way to get you working. I had a meeting with the school to find out why she is struggling. The school made it very clear to me. She explained as well. It was the learning style. It was the way things were going. And because she has left it for so long, the teacher didn't feel like they could even bring her up to speed anymore. So in a nutshell, she has been signed, sealed, delivered, maths, failed. So I started speaking to other parents, and I was very fortunate to have a Nigerian parent who said to me, there is an Asian lady who is so brilliant. So I went with my daughter and I said, look, have an open mind. To cut the long story short, within 5 months, this teacher was able to bring my daughter to an acceptable level in GCSE, and she passed the GCSE maths.
Wow.
It did cost me a few pounds.
Yeah.
It wasn't
sacrifices.
That was the necessary sacrifice for that short period of time to make sure that this child, and to satisfy myself as a parent as well, that I have done everything in my power to support my daughter. So you can imagine if that relationship was not there, and the teachers are also saying, yeah, maths is a difficult thing. Don't worry, darling. You can always rewrite it, At some point, she was put in a functional skills. And I believe the functional skills maths is different and it's a lower level to... Ms. Jones is going to explain that to us.
I know she will explain, yes.
So I said, no, she needs to pass GCSE maths. And I know she's capable, but her self-esteem, it's so low when it comes to understanding of maths. She just got a mind block. So we need to make those necessary sacrifices. On the other hand, we know that there are some children who may not be able, for whatever reason, to achieve certain academic attainments. However, there are alternatives. I always say that we live in a country where there are so many options for us. If your child is not academically inclined, please do not push them because the parent wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor. So now you are living your life through your child. So by hook or crook, you become that doctor, you become that lawyer. Again, we are setting that child up to fail. So understanding your child's ability, your child's skill set, and then work on it. You know, this country, a plumber, a carpenter, electrician, they earn more money than you and I, Kweku.
Of course, they do.
But we don't want to encourage our children who may be good at these skills to do it, because some parents are even embarrassed to say that my daughter or my son is learning construction or is learning to become a plumber or a carpenter. Seriously. So I think parents, we need to assess ourselves. Get to know our children, get to know what they are good at. Just because a child is very good at a subject doesn't mean that that is a career path they want to take.
We're coming to talk about careers, so we don't want to jump the gun at a minute. And I remember that Auntie Kate also touched on the careers issue as well. Look, as I said, I'm looking at the time, and I think that we have a number of issues to go through. So I want us to, Madam Tina, I want you to touch on this before we move on to the next session, which is how do we go about addressing discrimination and concerns with teachers or schools? From what has been said so far, what I can sum up is that I think that parents, we have three responsibilities. First is to support our children. Second is to monitor them. And third is to advocate for them. So within those, we have various roles that we need to play. Supporting them and monitor them, because especially as Madam is saying, unfortunately, if our relationship is not the best and our children are telling our teachers that don't show our parents the results, then but if we have a relationship with the school and we go to the parents' evening, then they will be able to tell us, some of these things that are happening. But again, the better thing is to develop a better relationship with our children and then to advocate for them. But before we touch on this, I want you to just reflect on the sacrifices and the steps we need to take before we move on to this next section.
You still calling Tina or me?
I'm calling you Madam Kate.
Okay, sorry, because you said Madam Tina, so I got confused. Okay. Yes, we do need to make those sacrifices, like Madam Tina has said. I'd like to say that the functional skills and other pathways, like career education pathway or degree pathways, or qualification pathways, is a broad area. I think we need to look into it another time. We cannot discuss all of it. But I like to say here that functional skills is not lower. It's just like functional skill is another route into getting GCSE, math, and English. Like you said, Madam, children do learn differently. Okay, so some are more academic inclined, some are more kinesthetically inclined. So a child who will learn by doing it will not suit the cognitive style, if you know what I mean. And a child who is cognitive will not suit the kinesthetic style. In between them, we have those who copy and mimic the copying. Okay, so we all have different methods of learning. Now, functional skills, we do have different levels, which are all equivalent to GCSEs. So that route, we can explore that in more details. And then we can also explore the apprenticeship routes as well in more details. That will be another time. Sacrifices, yes, we do need to make sacrifices, but we also have to look at what our parents can do to sacrifice. Most of our parents, as I said, and I know what I'm talking about, do struggle. Some of them, they should pardon me, they struggle with English and maths. Their reading, their comprehension, and even their ability to even support their own children is a struggle for them. Because they didn't have the privilege of, going through formal education like some of us did. I'm not damning them, I'm just saying that's the background they're coming from. So for those parents, there are support in the community. I have always opened up to my community. If you need support with your child's school placement, If you need support with your child's health in terms of grades, in terms of how your child is achieving, I have said this to many people, and I have supported some people to get child placement and to interpret grades for their children. The churches are there. GHASWA is there. Ghana Union is there. GHASWA is there. I mean, we are so fortunate that we have all these organizations. Talk to people. You know, if it's that area that you're struggling with, talk to people. You belong to a church. I'm sure that every Ghanaian here will belong to either a church, a mosque, or a community group somehow, one way or
another. Instinctively religious.
Yes, talk to people within the community who you know are maybe teachers, doctors, you know. And to be honest with you, I had a role model, and that changed everything for me. Okay, that changed everything for me. Sometimes we do need these role models to be, and the openness and the relationship between we and our parents can also, the role models do fit in there. That's why you see most of these boys following these celebrities who, you know, we don't know how they got their money, and I'm not sitting here and judging, but they do follow them because they see them as role models. So we should also focus in that area, be role models for our kids. I think in that sense, we will help support our children, and those sacrifices are worth making. I know some parents who have saved well enough to send their children to private schools because they believe that's where the children will get help from. So at least we should also endeavor. If you can, endeavor. If you cannot, seek help, because I'm sure those helps are in the community. So that is what I can add.
Thank you so very much, and thank you also for the comments that is coming through, and the various views that have been expressed. And Madame Laura is saying that her son is a rapper, but then he's also got a degree in business and finance. You know, so he's versatile. Yes, he's versatile. And yes,
it's also the interest of the child. You know, I mean, like Auntie Tina said, it's the interest of the child. So, and in fact, yesterday I was on another program talking about this same thing. If you force me to live your dreams, you are just setting me up to fail. You understand? And most of us, my generation, you and I, our generation, we are living our parents' dream. But is that what we really wanted to be? You understand? I'm not saying we have failed, but this is what our parents wanted us to be. And experience have showed us that we cannot be self-fulfilled, and we are living somebody else's dream. So we need to know. So, I mean, I like that. The basics first. So if the entertainment fails, that person has still got the qualification down there. And move on with it. So,
and talking about living parents' dream, my father is very disappointed. I've said it before. He wanted me to be a doctor. Wanted me to be a doctor, but look at me now, I'm a social worker. So he was, but now I think now when I send him the money, you know, he appreciates it.
Mine wanted a lawyer, so he calls me my failed lawyer.
You know, so we'll be talking about the career choices and how we support our children briefly as we move along, and I'm again conscious of the time. But one of the important roles is to advocate for our children, especially our Black children. Say bia a teacher for di yembaneni or more time or mumbaneni or papa. Say yemma mema no ebia no wabaka krana ebia eja yemba ye training omo so omo ye assertive ebia omo kasa nyemem kakra na teacher ni di nani esi obey so na dwen say emma teacher for emma grade si say teacher ni etan oba grade be no ade be ma oba no. Now that, you know, for this year, we are now dependent on you know, teachers' predictions or teacher predicted grades. If your teacher dislikes your child, then what happens? Now, let's touch on briefly. What are the options to us? If we see that our children are not getting the best there, they are experiencing bullying, they are experiencing a lot of targeting, a lot of, you know, seclusion, a lot of detention, and a lot of bad treatment from school and from their teachers. What are their options? Let me start with Madam Tina, and then I come to Madam Kate.
Okay, thank you, Kweku. I think these things is very important to identify them at the very early stages so that we nip it in the bud. And the way we can find out a lot of the time is, again, if we know our children better. Because sometimes they do say communication is 80% body language, 20% words. And some children don't want to get into trouble, so they're not going to tell parents. So they will come home looking a bit run down, moody, changing behavior and all those problems. So we need to, again, find out from them. If you're lucky and you have more than one child in a school, sometimes the younger one or another one who could probably come and say, oh, so-and-so was doing this or that at the playground. But we need to also let our children know that if they're having any issues, sometimes they may not even realize that it's bullying or it's something that serious. But if they share that with us, we will then be able to, talk to them about, like, my daughter with the hijabi issue, for example. So we then need to be able to communicate. If it's primary, then of course the class teacher, we can contact the class teacher first to have a dialogue. Of course, each school has their own complaint procedure. And I will encourage parents to have a working relationship, professional relationship with the schools, so that you start addressing some of these issues at a low level before you move up straight into complaints, for official complaints, because sometimes that could actually mess up the situation altogether. Again, conscious biases and everything we are talking about. So if it's primary school, of course, you contact the school, your child's class teacher. If it's secondary school, we talk about the form tutors, and there are other pastoral leaders that the children can work with. And sometimes we work with the children to find out whether it's the right time to go in a formal complaint. And I had to do that with my daughter at secondary school, because when she was doing GCSE child development, the teacher that was teaching them, to be honest, wasn't serious about it at all. But at the time she was telling me, oh, mommy, don't do it. It's okay. I will manage. We'll handle the situation. Then when she went into A-levels and she was doing health and social care because she wanted to be a social worker, so she's chosen her subjects quite carefully. But my daughter and I knew the curriculum or the modules that they need to go through to be able to write their A-level. And we noticed that they were far behind. And they'll go to lessons and this teacher will be talking nonsensical, honestly. To the point where the teacher was having non-teaching related communication chats, conversation with other students. My daughter got fed up with this. So when she goes into the lesson, she will put her head down and sometimes will fall asleep. Especially spring, summer, she has a serious hay fever allergy. So the prescription medication also makes her tired.
Drowsy, yes.
The teacher with the students video recorded my daughter. Now I've seen consent from her to share this. Okay, so they actually recorded my daughter and put it straight on Snapchat. Can you believe it? And I thought enough was enough. So after dealing with the form tutor, on a low level, this was just ridiculous. So I went straight into formal complaints. And to cut the long story short, the teacher was moved from teaching A-level health and social care. And guess what? The same children that were playing with the teacher and being the teacher's pets, they then said to my daughter, we don't know what happened, but you really helped us. I know we didn't want you complaining, but we've realized that we were so behind and we don't know how we're going to pass our health and social care. So sometimes it's difficult to take the bold step, but listen to your gut instincts. If your gut instinct is telling you something is not quite right, investigate, explore. Sometimes the children are afraid that there could be repercussions and they could be bullied or they could be labeled. So parents, take a professional attitude. Sometimes do it behind the kids' back in terms of exploring and getting to understand, because we are also aware that sometimes the children's behavior in school may be different from home. So you didn't go straight into the defense mechanism. My child cannot do this and that. Some children leave the house with a lovely long skirt. By the time they get to campus, you can see their underwear in the same skirt. So we have to be very open-minded when the teachers are also sharing certain information about our children. And we just have to address the situation in a very professional manner. I know they do say the angry Black women, but in most of our Black culture, we are so passionate about what we do. So when we are excited, when we are emotional, you know, just like what I'm doing now with the hand gestures and the head and everything, and other cultures may think we are angry. You know, so they need to be aware that is the way. It doesn't mean we are angry and we are coming to attack them. You know, that is the way we are, and they need to work with us so that we can get to the bottom and support the child here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, you want to talk now. You can say, why man. Everyone na say, the economy papa, you teacher for Nkasa. Yen complaint procedures. Yen fast acquaintance, yen busa se mpacho na mo complaint procedure ye Obia o ka chance on fa complaint procedure man pe na ne yema start hihye no. Ebi wo kwa na otimi report on ko ekoma Ofsted. School no kra na mo ye kra otimi report on akoma Ofsted. Enti no omo complaint procedure is na fast acquaintance so. Na edu bebe so maye yenya botre kakra ansa. May and dear manage giddy name ntokwa hunu na enim go ase yenya botre ye kwa yentie the teacher for ne kan ebi wona na oba no ebi a ofia no wa enim te say angel school no akofe ne si actually teacher for no enti the nya botre na tie friends the teacher ne kan answer na wakasa nso nya botre if say ye no ya na ya obi kan asem se wa onim ye ba na ntetiemu na fe teacher for ne abeka so ya angry mother na say the dey abeto say okra no school okra na bi o member because okra no teach them do we aggressive we threaten teachers there be ye kwa nya botre kakra ye ne teacher for ne kasa encho mo say bi akwan na mo dey ye manifesto nyempe na uni omo kasa nso a obi a okasa ne tiri hu bi a ekroma wan kasa otiri hu a YouTube boni enti wo kasa hu a eno mbenya botre ama ye mma no. Madam Tina, let me bring you into the conversation. Madam Kate, Madam Kate, let me bring you into the conversation before we move on to look at two more aspects before we wrap up this discussion. In terms of, again, from your perspective, how do we address these issues when there are problems experienced by our children?
Exactly. So when you walk them and you request for those information, already when the child comes to you and say, and today this is what happened, you refer to that group. Okay, you refer to that procedure or the discrimination policy. You refer to the bullying policy. Now it's also good. I mean, sometimes, like Auntie Tina said, we don't have to go in gun blazing. And let me clarify this point. Our children sometimes are not the easiest people to work with. I will tell you this. Me being a Black teacher and an African, I have seen the wrath of our children. Okay, so they can be very difficult. We know their background and we know where they are coming from. So for me, I do understand them. But for a Caucasian, that may be a whole new ball game. They don't want to deal with it. So then they tag this child. The parent also goes and giddy.
Add insult to injury.
Oh, it is set. They will first tell you, just look at the mother or look at the dad, and then you understand the child's behavior. So it's important we dialogue with them. It's also important that we take our time. I suggested once that if your child is experiencing bullying, the first time your child comes to you and say that today this happened, make a diary for yourself. Record it. Record the date, record the time, record who was involved. Because the child will give you the story. So in the first instance, you do the recording yourself. You call the school or you email the school to say, this is what my child has reported to me. If nothing is done about it, and it keeps on, then, like you said, I know parents who have taken schools to Ofsted. And Ofsted have done unannounced inspections and found out that there was bullying going on in that school. There were discriminations going on in that school. So first of all, try and establish that link. Try and talk to them. It may be that it is your child who is actually engineering it. And in most cases, some cases, we see that the child engineers it. So it's just like provoking somebody. You go and provoke that person, and then when that person responds, and it's heavier than your provocation, then that becomes an issue. So we should also look at it on that level.
Okay.
And getting ourselves involved in parent evening. It's also a very good area of trying to combat this, because you will know exactly what is going on there, and you'll be able to use the policies to bring the school to book or to bring the teacher to book. So now you understand when I say some teachers, deriving from what Auntie Tina said. So now you understand why I said some teachers inflate the grades. If that teacher was not teaching anything, okay, and that teacher had to submit grades. So do you see where the temptation is? To inflate those grades?
Yes.
And it does happen.
Yes.
It goes on. It does happen. So we should look at it from that angle too.
Thank you very much. And I know we've run out of time. So let's touch on this, and then we would try and wrap up with your final words. But let's touch on this briefly, before we go on. So we know what's happened. We know coronavirus happened. We know that our children were not able to be educated. We know that some of them were not able to write their exams. We know that the teachers predicted their grades. We know that they sent their results in, and we know the debacle that happened, the U-turns that happened, and what is happening right now. I mean, right now, because of that, I think that the grades has actually gone up for A levels, for the GCSEs than previously, and most of the children are excited. I have one of my favorite, I have to be careful of talking favorites here. I have one child that I really like who got three A stars and 3 A's.
Wow.
Yes, 3 A stars and 3 A's. That were, and he's over the moon. Yes, he's over the moon, and he's a very, very intelligent young man. Let me ask you, what lessons can we learn? So right now, we know that most of the parents became teachers, and we know that our children who maybe played with their mock are now thinking, "Yay! Had I known, it's always at last." So again, let me start with Madam Tina, and then I'll come to Madam Kate. What lessons can we learn from what has happened?
Hindsight is always a good thing, isn't it, Kweku? When we talk to these children about doing good and putting on the best behavior at all times, they think we are old school. 2020 has proved that good behavior, good character, and continuous learning will put you in the right stead. Thank God the government did a U-turn. Even with the U-turn, some children have still struggled because they are not going to go to the university that they wanted to go to.
Absolutely.
We are being told medical schools are full, and I keep asking myself, we are still importing medical doctors and nurses from abroad. How can the medical schools be full when the U-turn has given some of them, higher grades for them to go into these schools? If we were able to change the Excel Center within weeks to occupy, potential coronavirus patients for whatever, what stops us from building further medical schools? Perhaps we can train our own homegrown, So what I can say to our young people is that lessons learned. Moving forward, don't leave everything to the last minute, because some children and even parents have got this attitude of, oh, it's only a mock, so the real thing, the mock has now become the real thing.
Absolutely.
So parents, we all need to, learn from this experience, and moving forward, we can ensure that our children actually have a good plan all year round, so that they can learn, they can understand, and do the right thing through us, so that when the situation comes where your your life literally depends on what grade your teacher gives you. You are not going to get into this predicament of, I wish I should have been given the opportunity to write the exams. Well, the opportunity couldn't happen. So it's based on your behavior, based on your performance throughout the past year or whatever. So I am hoping that parents and young people have all learned their lessons and that moving forward, we will do things differently. Thank you.
That's you. Yes, Ramo, you're born a tough no. Saying Colano or more come on friendly agro. If it's a needy more cono, and I bet any final exam. It might be our train last minute apple, and another person or Korea. They say, oh no, last minute, no, I don't know, a ball. Into the patch, the all patch, and they say, so Umbano, oh, and social beer, no, you be a money, you know, on your cat, encouraging, no, you know. Madam Kate, let me come to you.
Loretta said something that because when children are misbehaving is because they are bored. It's not always the case. There are some circumstances when that's happened, but there are also circumstances when that is not the case. You can have the most engaging lesson. If the child is distracted or if a child is not attentive, you can never stop that child. The only option would be to remove that child from the classroom so that the others can learn. I mean, take this from a teacher's point of view. There are certain lessons when they are not, children's attention span is the first 16 minutes of every hour. So when that goes off, it's very difficult to engage them back. So there are issues or there are cases when those things appear. So let's debunk that myth that if they are misbehaving, it's because they are bored or they are not being challenged enough. Okay. The other thing is, Auntie Tina, the medical school is funded by the NHS. Okay. So if it's funded by the NHS, it depends on the NHS budgets. Okay. So they would rather take those that has been trained in other countries, whom they don't have to spend a lot on to train, to come in rather than train their own. This has always been our case and our issue in this country with shortage of doctors. So yes, they have reviewed their grades, but maybe the places for the NHS funding is not there. So they are not able to take them in. So that's another area. In terms of the grades, this has shown us that we have to be continuously being on top of our game. Okay. So there is nothing like I'm waiting to year 9 or I'm waiting to year 10 to sit up, or I'm waiting to year 11 to sit up. It has to be a continuous process. I'm sure that they would start thinking about this continuous assessment, but given the government in power now, I have my doubts that this feedback is going to go back, and it's going to go back to where each and every person is catered for. And I have always said, I believe in equity, not equality, because if you have a 6-foot person, you have a 5-foot person, and you have a 4-foot person, and you give them all 3 bricks to stand on, you're still disadvantaging the 5-foot person.
Absolutely.
So we have to meet each person at the point of their needs, and we have to know how to bring them up. Unfortunately, the government we have in place now is bent on pushing everybody the academic routes. Having said that, there are apprenticeship programs. So, if you would put that on your calendar, the apprenticeship routes and then the university routes, we can talk about that, because there are a lot more opportunities in the apprenticeship area.
Okay.
A lot more in the apprenticeship area. So we can also look at that. They are all pathways to getting qualifications. They are all pathways to getting degrees.
Okay.
You don't always have to go through the university route to get a degree. You can use the apprenticeship route to get to a degree. If you're already employed and you are in unemployment and you want to improve your skills or reacquire new skills, you can also go through the apprenticeship, all paid for by your work anyway, especially those of us in the public sector. Okay. Private sectors also do utilize the apprenticeship. So yes, we don't have to wait to the last minute. And to be able to do this, the engagement of our parents, our guardians, our carers, and our caretakers has to start right from the very first day. As I said, the very first day you walk that child into that secondary school gate or that primary school gate, that's when your involvement starts.
Mm.
You don't have to leave it to when the reports start coming into you before you take bold actions. No, it starts from that very first day. And therefore, as you practice that and as you are involved, you would actually know the stages, every stage of the journey of your ward. And that some of all these issues can be corrected if we do that. We have to make time for our kids.
Yes.
You know, the mansions, we've already built them in Ghana. We keep building them. We will never have the opportunity. Some of us will never have the opportunities to live in those mansions. We are only building them for other people to enjoy. This is where you are, and your children are your future. So you need to invest time, energy, and money into them, however difficult it may be sometimes. So with this, we can eliminate some of these issues that have cropped up now. So that's all I have to say.
And then yes, Madam Vice is saying that we need to come back for a part 2. You know, so we hear you, Madam Vice. Now, as we wrap up, you know, I want you to just highlight on, you know, in summary, what we can do as parents to give our children the best of opportunities, maximize their attainments, and to make sure that they achieve to their maximum. So that in your final words, Madam Tina, and then again I'll come to Madam Kate to wrap it up. What would you say to us in your final words about how we do this?
I think in addition to everything that has been said, I mean, Sister Kate did mention that in her last statement as well. Parents, we have to, again, communicate with our children, find out where their interest lies. I think I did mention that just because a child is really good at science doesn't mean that child should become a doctor. That child may want to do law. Some children are all round, you know, they are good all round. It's good to have that discussion with them and then support them that way. Even if that child, you know, sometimes is the extracurricular activities that they enjoy most. So like, I think one of the ladies said that, you know, her son has a degree in business and finance and is a rapper. Good on that child. When I speak to some of the young people, I say to them, you know, Shaquille O'Neal started with basketball. But guess what? He's got an MBA and he owns most of the 24-hour gyms in Los Angeles. For how long can you play football? For how long can you play basketball? By the age of 35, you're almost retiring. What do you have to fall back on?
Yeah.
So we need to support our children. We need to do everything we can so that one day when we sit back, we will say, actually, I am satisfied with what I did because I know I can say in my heart of heart that I did everything I could. And then at the end of the day, that young child will then need to have that tools and build and develop on that. That is all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Madam Tina, Madam Kate.
I changed my name to Tina Kate.
It's because both of you are Joneses. You know, so I keep on saying Tina and Kate, and then the Joneses. Okay, Madam Kate. Kate. Please, your final words as we wrap up in terms of how we as parents make sure that we support our children to achieve to their maximum.
In addition to what Auntie Tina has said, seek help and seek support. Seek help and seek support. So once you open up and you ask for help, your community will support you. Your church, your groups, your family, they will support you. So seek help and then also involvement. I've always said this. My dad has always said to me, your education will never leave you, but a husband or I used to play basketball, you know, jumping around. One time he said to me, I never sent you to school to be jumping around. If that was my motive, I could have actually pocketed my money, and then you can be jumping around all year. So they told me that there were NBA players earning money. But yes, I mean, support them in any way that you can. Inquire about them. Seek help. I mean, I have people who have always come to me to say, you know, help me and help my child in this, and I'm willing to do that. You know, so let's support our community as well. Let's ask them how their children are doing. In addition to that, we need role models. We need role models in our community. We need to actually encourage them to look up to people who have done well, who have broken the barriers, and are moving forward. We need those role models. We need to get them involved in our youth activities, in our youth life, and in our youth education. I was one last one when I was doing my teacher training. There was like Black History Month day, and there was an assembly. I was teaching at a school in Shrewsbury. If you know, Shrewsbury is purely like white dominated, with only a few Black people. The head teacher of the school giving Black achievements or Black people who have excelled was talking about Jay-Z, was talking about Diggy Rascal. I didn't even know he existed. He's a British rapper.
Yeah, he's Ghanaian, actually.
He's a Ghanaian too.
Yes, that's Diggy Rascal. And then one athlete. I mean, this was the time when Kofi Annan was the
Secretary General.
Exactly. This was the time Kofi Annan was the Secretary General of the UN. This was the time when Condoleezza Rice was the
Secretary of State.
Foreign Secretary. Was she the Foreign Secretary? Yes.
She was the Secretary of State. Yeah.
Exactly. So I said, I stood up and I said, Black people, we have people we can aspire to. Kofi Annan is the Secretary General of the United Nations, and he is a Black person. Condoleezza Rice is the Secretary of State in America, and she is a Black person. So all these people we can look up to. And she was shocked. And I mean, that thing really got me up. Yes, they may be rappers, they may be sports people, but is that all we are good for? So you see where I got, and I still see it all the time. So we need to be role models to our kids. It's really, really important that we show them that they are not only just good for basketball, for football and athletics. They are actually equally good to become Secretary Generals of the United Nations.
Absolutely.
Prime ministers of this country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's
wow. Wonderful. And look, we've exceeded a bit of our time too, because imagine that if we had 3 guests. What was going to happen? This is 2 guests. Imagine we have 3 of them as we used to do. I mean, what can I say? I mean, you guys have spoken wisdom. You've shared some knowledge to us, and we are so thankful. Please guys, if you are still listening, can you help me say thank you to our guests, Madam Kate Jones and Madam Tina Jones. The Jones today, they've been wonderful by sharing with us some very, very good points. Yes, so thank you very much. Yes, Madam Isha also runs award celebration called the Youth for Excellence for 7 years. We may have to start again. Please, let's collaborate. Let's celebrate our young people. Let's celebrate those who are achieving within our community. Yes, thank you very much. And then thank you for the comments that are coming in, Mr. Bediakun, Chairman. So thank you so much. So can we say goodbye to you? And God bless
you. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a lovely weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Madam Kate first. Goodbye. And then let's say goodbye to Madam.
Bye. Lovely.
Bye. Wonderful. So all too soon, ladies and gentlemen, we come to another edition at the end of another wonderful discussion. Yes, thank you for all your wonderful comments. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Bediakon Treme. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Chichi. Yes, Delight. Thank you so much for your comments. Hello, and thank you again, Hindiatu. Long time no see, Hindiatu. Thank you very much. And also thank you, Joyous Spirit. Thank you, Esther Boateng. Mr. Amuako, thank you so much for joining in and for saying thank you to our guests. Madame Efua, thank you very much. The Johnsons have been phenomenal. I absolutely agree with you. And then Madam Vice, thank you so much. And Isha, thank you so much. Well, so all too soon, we bring it to a close of another edition of a wonderful discussion. Again, as we always say, that we are GHASWA, we are the Ghanaian Social Workers Association, and we say that we want to bring it to your doorstep. And I know that not everybody comes on social media. So if you think that you have a pertinent topic you want to GHASWA to come and treat on your Zoom, in your churches, or in your organizations, please invite us. Yeah, can I say, oh yeah, cool, oh yeah, sorry. Now, say bibi now per GHASWA for your banning any. I'm sorry for number to come. Now you better come once more. Your numbers now what information so so unim se bia wa sorry betimi enyamfa so was anima ye ken ho a fa mo we thank you so much for passing through. As we say that in the month of August, it's actually a holiday month. We should have taken the whole month off, but we've been trying to come your way every fortnight. So every 2 weeks we'll bring you another show. So and in next 2 weeks we'll be coming your way with another show. I think I'm tempted to look at the topic of addressing difficult, challenging behaviors. Addressing difficult, challenging behaviors within our communities. As we said, that sometimes our children, even in the educational system, they put up some challenging behaviors, and that is what gets them into further trouble. How do we address difficult, challenging behaviors is hopefully the topic that we're going to be coming your way. So please make it a point to tune in. We are GHASWA, and we are very, very privileged and pleased that you make it a point to tune in. So until next time we meet again, we'll say that goodbye and God bless you.